Hi, we're back, and today we're going to pick up another paragraph in 1 John chapter 3, verses 11 through 18, and this we might regard as the test of love. So let's get started here. And I trust you've had your own time with the text itself. Now, in chapter 2, we had a paragraph that dealt with the new commandment of love. So now in chapter 3, there's another full paragraph that's devoted to the test of love, and then on into chapter 4, there's going to be somewhat of a full treatise on love. So let's take a look and see what we have here. Verse 11, Hati haute esten he angelia, because this is the message. Which, there's the relative pronoun that goes with message, which you heard. First aorist active, indicative, second person plural, from the beginning. Now, we have hina that normally we translate as in order that, but here it introduces an object clause. So it's simply translated as that we should love one another. It's not one commandment over here for this purpose that we might love. The commandment itself is that we should love one another. Now, in verse 12, we have a contrast of love, the exhortation in the previous verse, with Cain. Not just as Cain, who was from the evil one. Here we have Ain there, imperfect indicative of Amy. And here we have a very graphic word, esfaxen. Now this comes from the Greek verb sphadzo, that means I slaughter or butcher. Pretty graphic word here for Cain's murder of Abel. And this is a first aorist active indicative third person singular. So Cain was from the evil one, and he slaughtered or butchered his brother. And then we have an idiom here, charintinos. And for what reason or why did he slaughter him? Here's the same parsing as above. And the answer is given. Because his works were evil, and the works, here we borrow the word erga from the previous line, the works of his brother were righteous. Dikai is a predicate adjective, so we supply here a form of the verb to be. Now, in terms of the Christian community, John directs his readers with the imperative here, me thaumadzata. And as I've indicated before, when you have a present imperative that's negated, this means stop doing something that is already in motion. So, and stop marveling, brothers, if the world hates you. Mize is a contract verb from mizeo, present active, indicative, third person singular, meaning you stand in the same position to the world as Abel stood to Cain, the object of hatred. Then we have the grounds for the reassurance, meaning stop marveling. We know, oidamen, perfect, active, indicative, first person plural, translated as a present. Now, we have a verb here from metabaino. This is a perfect, active, indicative, first person plural. We know that we have transferred from death into life. And how do we know that? Because we love the brothers, meaning sisters as well. The one who does not love abides or remains in death. So notice here the coordination of these three lines. From death into life, and then being in the sphere of death. We also need to notice here the perfect tense, meaning the condition. Past action with extended results. We are in a transferred condition from death into life. Now, the contrasting response and spheres of hatred and murder. Each one who hates, that's a present active participle, masculine singular nominative, his brother, is a murderer. Now, this is a compound noun from anthropos, and you've had the verb apakteno, kill, man-killer, or a murderer. And you know that every murderer, here's that word again, does not have eternal life. And here we have a participle. Present active participle, feminine singular accusative, that is modifying life, which is also feminine singular accusative. So it does not have eternal life abiding or remaining in him. Now, we have the positive example here of love. In this, we have known love. That one, here's the demonstrative pronoun used with reference to Christ. On our behalf, now here we have the me verb here, etheken, from tithemi. It's an aorist active indicative, third person singular. Laid down his life. Even we ought, aphelomen. Remember that this verb, aphelo, is always looking for a complementary infinitive. So we ought, and here the infinitive is found. That's an aorist active infinitive from tithemi. We ought to lay down our lives on behalf of the brothers. Now, in 17, we have several subjunctives following the has, the on, but whoever. Now, this is paired up here with the present subjunctive of eche, a present subjunctive of theore. Theoreo is the verb. So eche and theore are both parsed as present active subjunctives, third person singular. So whoever should have the life or the stuff or the goods of the world and should behold or observe his brother having need. Ekanta, present active participle, masculine singular accusative. Now, the last subjunctive here is from kleo. That means I shut, like you shut a door or you take a key and lock a door. Now, this is parsed as an aorist active subjunctive, third person singular. That's something momentary. Should shut, close. Ta splankna autu up autu. Should shut his compassion from him. And then we have the rhetorical question, how does the love of God abide in him? And what's the answer? It doesn't. And in verse 18, the conclusion of the paragraph, we have the use of inclusion. Little children, let us not love in word nor in tongue. And I would add in the words alone, but in deed or in work and in truth. Now, I use inclusion here because this exhortation to love we found in verse 11 at the beginning of this paragraph. So the paragraph rounds out here with the same exhortation. Now, if we take a look at the whole, we have an exhortation to love that is found there at the very beginning. Then we have what's I call the negative prototype in Cain that is juxtaposed with the positive prototype in Jesus. And then we have the exhortation to love at the very end. Now, let's look a little bit more specifically at what we have here. Now, in terms of the negative prototype, and here we have Cain who was from the evil one, that is juxtaposed with ekkenos, that one, referring to Jesus. Also in 12, he slaughtered his brother, and in terms of positive prototype, Abel had his life taken from him. And then in 3:12, and for what reason did he slaughter him? Here's that verb, because his deeds were evil and those of his brother were righteous. Now that is juxtaposed with, in this we have known love, that one on our behalf laid down his life for us. So we have Cain who takes a life, who slaughters, that is juxtaposed with that one referring to Jesus who laid down his life voluntarily. And 13, stop marveling if the world hates you. So the world is paired up here with a negative prototype. The Christian community in 13 is you, humas. In 14, the one who does not love abides in the sphere of death. And also in 14, we know that we have transferred from death into life, meaning into the sphere, new sphere of life, because we love the brother. So death there is contrasted with life. So let's continue here. There's more to come. 15. Each one who hates his brother is a murderer. So hatred here is linked up with being a murderer. What's a positive prototype? We love the brothers. In 14, from death into life. The one who does not love abides or remains in the sphere of death. And in 15, this one has eternal life abiding in him. Now, in 17, we have the situation where someone has the life or stuff or goods of this world, should perceive his brother having need, and should shut. Here's the aorist subjunctive here. His compassion from him. How does the love of God remain in him? Now, this is what would be juxtaposed with opening one's heart. So, it's not stated in the text, but implied there, that whoever should have what another needs, behold his brother having a need, and should open one's heart. That would be the opposite. And finally, we see the juxtaposition, let us not love in word or in tongue, and here I would use the word alone, meaning simply by what we say. And loving in word and tongue alone is juxtaposed here with work or deed and truth. So what we have here are two contrasting spheres. So John divides the world into two spheres, two groups of people with nothing intermediate. The spiritual tendencies of the two groups are expressed by what they do, and conduct is linked up with one's origin. The means or instrumentation by which the Christian community knows what love means is the self-sacrifice of the life of Jesus. In this, we have known love. And let me suggest here that love is an emotion, love is an action, and it's also a social energy that drives Christians to make others the object of concern without demanding or expecting a reward. We have a grounds and conclusion in 1 John 3:16. The grounds is that one on our behalf laid down his life. Here's this verb, he laid down. What is the conclusion? Even we, on behalf of the brothers and sisters, we ought to lay down our lives. Here's the complementary infinitive. So notice the pairing here, and I've color-coded. Ekenos, that one, linked up with we. Huper Hamon, on our behalf, on behalf of the brothers. Up here, his life, and here, our lives. He laid down, and we ought to lay down. So the grounds is found in the example of Jesus. And in the conclusion, it is obligatory. We ought. This is something the community ought to be doing. Now, the general statement, we ought to lay down our lives for others, is followed by a particular example of what love means. And that has to do with opening one's compassion to the one in need and loving in deed as well as in truth. Now, I want to draw attention here to things that are both compared and contrasted. The left column that we noted as the negative prototype, I put under the category of hatred. Hatred equals the attitude and action of Cain. The taking of life out of a sense of wounded self-pride equals the attitude of the world to believers of the Christian community. It equals not loving. It equals being a murderer. It equals death. It equals shutting one's compassion, or we might say the sin of indifference, and loving only in word and tongue. So all of those things at the left belong together. The right side, juxtaposed with hatred, we have love. Equal the attitude and action of Jesus. Equal voluntary sacrifice. Equal becoming the object of the world's hatred. Equal sacrificial love that characterizes the Christian community. It equals giving of life. It equals eternal life. It's the same thing as opening one's compassion, and it also means loving in deed and in truth. So all of these things are compared, just as in the sphere of hatred, all of those things are compared as well. The contrast couldn't be sharper. Now, by way of application, lack of love or the sin of indifference is really an equivalent to hatred and being a murder. That's something of the shocking truth that we find here. John takes us back to the truth from the beginning, that love is to be the highest goal of Christian faith and ministry. We may ask the question, or how do we react to John's message? Do we immediately say, well, I haven't murdered anyone like Cain did? And John's word becomes pointed. Do you will to give life to others, not take life? For example, do we take the necessary time that others need? The very people that we live and work with need very specific expressions of tangible, incarnational love to genuinely care for their well-being. And caring for others certainly takes time, effort, vulnerability, surrender of our schedule, our busy lifestyle, with an absence of religious judgmentalism. And finally, many cannot hear our words of love until love is expressed. Acts of love most certainly have a way of opening up other people's hearts to hear our words of love. So thanks.